all my friends, they says, "Hey, what are you listening to over there?" And I say, "Hey, I'm over here now, listening to..."
Let's find out with co-host Diego.
You hear? I hear. Oh!
Everything in this universe has a beginning. The Big Bang. The formation of nebular matter into stars and planets. The first collections of amino acids in the Earth's oceans. The first creatures to leave them. The first mammals. The first primates that walked upright. The first religion. The first printing press.
Pump up your space boots and phone home. It's time for Let's Find Out with co-host Diego.
Live. To tape from the mothership. It's Let's Find Out with co-host Diego. Bigfoot, UFOs, Stargates, let's find out. Paranormal, intelligent design, entertainment, let's find out. You're listening to Let's Find Out with co-host Diego.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Find Out with co-host Diego. As always, thank you so much for taking this journey with me. On this episode of Let's Find Out, we have a family of ghost investigators that will be sharing their adventures and stories with us. We'll be hearing about them exploring historic haunted locations, cemeteries, abandoned sites. We're happy to have on the show our good friend and great supporter of Let's Find Out. Please welcome Josh Robertson from Moore Paranormal. Josh, hey, thank you for coming back. I know we had you last time for the Ohio Urban Legends. As promised, we brought you back to talk about Moore Paranormal. Thank you for taking time off your busy schedule and joining us.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. Unfortunately, my cousin was going to join, and she had something last minute come up, so she couldn't join. And then the Moore Paranormal, Keith, he had to work, so you're stuck with me, man.
No. It's a pleasure having you back on. And I know down the road we'll have all three of you on the show and tell us all about what you're doing. So let's circle back real quick to when we last spoke, and then we'll talk about Moore Paranormal a little bit. With Ohio Urban Legends, I know the channel keeps growing. And I think since I spoke to you about a couple of months ago, we had you on, you were on your way to exploring another location. So what location was that?
With Moore Paranormal?
With actually, I'm sorry, it's gonna be with Ohio Urban Legends at that time.
Ohio Urban Legends. Yeah, I was going to go do the Witch's Tower down in Kettering, Ohio, and I actually did do that and put the link up on my YouTube page. It's such a cool tower. It's closed down now, but it's still there. It's a historic little area in the Metro Park area of Kettering, and yeah, was able to go down there and do that and make the video and put it up. So it was very cool.
And what was the name of that location again?
It was down in Kettering, Ohio. It's called the Kettering Tower, the Witch's Tower. It's in the Hill and Dales Metro Park area. It overlooks the golf course down there.
Awesome. It's worth mentioning twice. I want to make sure that the listeners of the Let's Find Out got that in their back of their minds and mine as well, because I'm very forgetful. So now let's jump into the more paranormal part, because now everything you've done so far, we're talking Ohio Urban Legends, and now we're talking about more paranormal, seems to be a very family-oriented trade. So how does this happen? I know a lot of families are busy, and we're talking about other family members or the kids are always doing something different. So what brought the family together to start the paranormal investigating group, More Paranormal?
Yeah. So my my cousin Keith, or my cousin Kim, her husband's name is Keith Moore, and they would go out and they were ghost investigating and doing all this stuff way before I was, and they would always be like, "Hey, you got to come out and ghost hunt." And I was like, no way, I don't know about that. I'm not sure about any of that stuff. But I always liked Halloween, and I loved urban legends. I loved all this stuff, but I wasn't sure about ghost investigations. And then they were like, hey, let's go to Ohio State Reformatory. And it was like for an overnight investigation. The first half was like a historical tour. The second half was the ghost investigation. I was like, all right, I'll do that. And I went. We had just an amazing time. I mean, life changing for me. I was so unsure about, paranormal and this and that. And we just had a lot of crazy things happen to us that night. It just made me a believer in paranormal. And the next day I was like, I love this. Let's do it. What are we going to do next? Just totally got on board with it. Their daughter, Corinne, my niece, she was just into it too. So we just were like, let's just make more paranormal. We'll start an Instagram page and we'll just have a good time with it, So that's really how it started.
So before that point, and I know a lot of family members have their own stories, whether they've had experiences or not. I'll tell you from my personal experience, my journey began because I've had paranormal experiences since I was 5 years old. Now, it's not a constant thing or yearly. It could be every 2 or 3 years or 5 years in between. But that's how my interest in this topic began, and it's been a rabbit hole ever since. Before you all got to that location, did you have any other experiences prior to that?
For me, no. I really didn't have any. I think it was just just liked creepy urban legend stuff and never really had any crazy experience happen until we went to a house day reformatory. And and it took almost the entire night until 3 a.m. or something for something creepy to happen. And I was like, all right, well, I can't explain what just happened. And then a couple more things happened. The next day we reviewed it and it's like, okay, well, we like debunked every possibility of something, freaky paranormal happening. And we're like, okay, well, maybe there's something there. Let's go explore another place and see if we can find more paranormal activity and document it and share it with other people. So.
And on that time, what equipment did you use to document this experience?
So with Ohio State Reformatory, we really didn't have anything. We were still newbies to paranormal investigations. We just had a spirit box and we had borrowed equipment from the Ohio State Reformatory. And, it was kind of funny. After we left Ohio State Reformatory, I was like, okay, let's get a K2 meter. Let's get what else can we buy? Can we get what other meters can we buy? What else can we get? And we just started really looking into equipment and what we could take to the next investigation. It turned into like a small, well, maybe we'll do this once a year, into, all right, let's buy more equipment. Let's go to the next place. Well, and after the next place, we bought more and more and more. And we just kept adding. What's kind of funny is the one investigation we went to, somebody was opening up this big suitcase of equipment. And we're like, wow, that is insane. Like, I can't believe we will never have a suitcase full of stuff. And literally like a year later, we're rolling into investigations with a suitcase full of equipment and stuff that we have because we were just so into it and so involved and just loving doing investigations.
So speaking of equipment, it's the same thing when I started with podcasting. I just had like a little mic in here and a thing there. Eventually now my studio looks like a junkyard of old equipment. You might find a Commodore 64 somewhere because I just buy all this stuff. Sometimes it's hit or miss. So out of all the equipment that the team has purchased, which has been the most successful ones and which of the equipment did not work out so well?
I think my favorite is the REM pod. It's the most famous, I think, of the ghost hunting equipment. It's the machine that it's censored and it lights up different colors the closer something gets to it. That's probably our favorite. That's at least my favorite go-to, just because it's you could put it down, you could debunk it in certain ways, and if it's real life. I can show that on social media, or I could show that on video that something got close to this and it got closer to it as the lights kept going. And we could try to recreate those lights and movements with our hands and try to debunk that. So that's my favorite one that I have. My cousin she's more sensory, so she's not really big into the equipment. She likes to feel and sense things happening to her. Um, we have so I like a lot of the animated types of equipment because I know if something's interacting like that, you could see it. You could see that something's happening. That's what I like. I don't know if I know the K2. We've had a lot of good interaction with the K2s. I don't know if there's anything that's really has disappointed us in forms of like equipment. We just we'll put it all out. We'll put all the equipment out and see if what interaction we're getting. And we nothing's I don't think ever really disappointed us with feedback we've received.
Great. And, talking about, and I know you say your cousin's not much into the tech stuff. So it's a team of 3, correct?
Yeah, 3 of us. Yep.
So each team has a certain level of expertise. It's almost like a football team. You have a quarterback, you have a running back. I'm not big into sports. All the analogy I can give you. So each of the members of your team, what are their expertise and what is their specialty?
So my cousin Kim, she's really like the sensory person. She'll go into it. She'll try to, get a feel for the area, a feel for what's happening. She'll kind of tell us if something feels dark or if she's not feeling like a sense of security in certain areas. She's kind of almost like a guide to us into the area. My cousin's husband Keith, he's like me. He's more of the electronic person, so he'll run a lot of the electronics. He asks a lot of questions. He's always very intuitive with what questions we're asking for the spirits. And I'm the person that's supplying a lot of the equipment and setting it up and putting it up, and I'll be after Keith. I'll be asking questions and being intuitive with what's happening on the investigation.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned asking the spirits questions because one of the many questions I have here, and I try to ask different questions from different individuals just to see what kind of answers they give me. But let me go into this. When you're attempting to record evidence or videotape or audio, whatever it may be, in order to receive a response from the spirit, there are certain ways people do things. They'll provoke a spirit into doing something negative just to catch something, or you just wait for something to happen or something to come through. My long-winded question is, when you're attempting to open lines with spirits, do you normally have prepared questions already written down, or do you just go cold in there? So meaning that, do you contour your questions in specificity, if that is even a word, in a specific location or home or building? So let's say if you're in a sanitarium, do you ask questions related to the sanitarium? Things like that.
Yeah, we usually will do a lot of background into where we're going. And then, a lot of the places we go into have a lot of historical background. So we'll try to figure out who might have died there, who's buried there, what historical events happened there, and then try to cater a lot of the questions to the history that was there. So, and then try to get a response from that. So, obviously the main question is anybody here with us tonight? That's the biggie. Right. But then we try to cater it to, if we go to an underground, Ohio is really famous for a lot of underground railroad history. So a lot of the questions when we went to Prospect Place in Trinway, Ohio, has a lot of historical history with the Underground Railroad. So the owner of the mansion that we were in at Prospect Place, he would bring a lot of people through the basement in his mansion for safety. And we knew that the lady was telling us we got a quick tour before we were able to investigate on our own. She goes, the owner would, when freed slaves would come through the house, somebody would knock, letting the owner know that freed slaves have come through or in the house, and it would be above where his office was. And so when we were in his office, we were just curious, hey, if anybody's with us today, or is anyone here, can you please give us a knock on the door or knock on something? And man, we heard a knock, and we couldn't capture it. It was so slight, we couldn't capture it on our any recording device. But it was just, I'll do it. It was just, we were like, hey, if anyone's here, can anybody knock? And we heard like this slight knock, and we were freaked out, and we tried to recreate that. And what's funny is I saw a meme today where it was like, hey, how many times have you asked a ghost to recreate something they've already done before? But we try to, like, we'll do a lot of research where we're going into and ask a lot of questions that are relevant to either that time or what's happened in that place, and try to get some kind of reaction from the ghost or spirit that we're trying to talk to.
And speaking of the reactions, what has been some of the as far as verbal, the ones that stuck to you the most of the answers to the questions, and something that's you haven't forgotten or kind of even creeped you out outside of the knock?
Most of it's been either through the REM pod, so the REM pod going off a ton. When we were in the Belair house, Belair, Ohio has one of the most haunted houses in the United States, called the Belair House. And we had the REM pod up in the staircase, and we have this on our More Paranormal Instagram page, and we thought we believe we were talking to the owner or a past inhabitant of the house, and the REM pod was just going crazy, and it was just triggering green like crazy. And we tried to recreate it with our hands, and we just couldn't do it. And we were just basically just asking simple questions, do you like that we're here? Are you okay that we're in the house? And blah, blah, blah. And we were just getting a ton of reaction on the REM pod. And another really cool one was we were in Rolling Hills Asylum in New York. And I can't believe we didn't get this on video. It was like our second biggest investigation. So we were somewhat new. And we were in the one area, I can't remember what, I think it was Roy's room. And we at this time we were doing a public hunt. So there was a bunch of other ghost investigators there. And the one investigative team, they left the room, and as they were leaving, they go, hey, Roy likes classical music. So we went in the room and we did our normal investigation. Nothing was really happening. I put the K2 down on his bed. We made sure that there was nothing interfering with the machine. And I was like, hey, let's just put some classical music on. And we put the classical music on. And I swear this is true. The K2 was going, the K2 meter goes from like green to yellow to orange to red. And it was just bopping around different colors. And it was insane. I can't believe we didn't get this on video. And we were just watching this, and we weren't even asking questions. We were just in the moment of listening to classical music at 2 a.m. in Roy's room in Rolling Hills Asylum, and watching our K2 meter just bouncing all around like Roy was just having a good old time with making the lights go up. And that to me was probably one of the coolest moments doing a paranormal investigation.
That sounds pretty awesome. So they were dead on with that the spirit loves classical music. What piece did you play, or just a random piece?
I don't even remember. Man. It was 2 a.m. We were freezing cold. We were not prepared to be in this place. We had on winter clothes, and we were freezing to death. And I think it was 2 or 3 a.m, and the machine was going nuts, and we were just like, what is going on? It stunned us enough to nobody even thought of bringing a camera out or having our camera out to record it. But it was a definitely cool experience.
No, and that's quite a drive for y'all, because you're going. I'm saying that you guys are based out of Ohio, right? Just like Ohio Urban Legends, right?
Yeah, it was a drive. Yeah, we drove out. We stayed there till 3 a.m. Then we went back to our hotel, and it just crashed.
Wow, that's a long trip. No, well worth it. If you were to you're talking about the equipment that you have, and I know that you're sticking with the ones that work the best. So out of all of those, which one is the one that's always dead on, the most accurate piece you have?
I would probably say the REM pod is probably, for me, that one to me is just, it's hard to debunk it. It's hard to recreate what's happening um, with the equipment. If something's close or something wants to interact, it's there. It's lighting up different ways. We have about 3 of those. So we'll try to put the REM pod around and then put other equipment around it just to make sure we're debunking everything that's happening. And if that one's not going off and I'm getting some feedback from other things, I'm a little hesitant to believe it. The REM pod one's just, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's hard to dispute what's happening with that one. So that one's my favorite. I'm more of the electronic guy. So, my cousin might like, something that's more sensory and more something that's to the senses. But to me, the electronic one, that one's hard for me to dispute or debunk if something's happening with it.
It follows up driving such distances to go to places like that. And I know that you're all a big fan of Halloween, paranormal things. Of course, we all are. But is there a location that you're just not going to go to? Because that's way too out there for me as far as, I'll say, scary or no way I'm going there.
As of right now, no. I mean, we're all pretty much open to everything. My cousin won't. The only thing my cousin won't do is she will not get a Ouija board out. So
I'm with her. Yeah, no.
So we will do everything. We'll have all the equipment out, but she will not. Now I will bring the Ouija board out. I'm okay with all of that stuff, but she won't. So, when we did the Belair house, we had my mom's friend. He is I'm probably going to say this wrong, but he is a gray witch or a white witch or something like that. Like, he actually went to a school and learned spells and this and that. And I think we have this on our More Paranormal Instagram page, where he actually did a protective spell over us before we did the investigation. And before we left, and he gave us these rocks that he put a protection spell over them, which I still have. I carry it with me. And before we left, he did an exit spell or something. And, he did some witchcraft stuff with salt water or something we had to rub in our feet, and, I'm somewhere in the middle with that kind of stuff, with believing in it, but it does not hurt. It does not hurt.
I was going to say the same thing.
It does not hurt in any way, shape, or form to put some type of spell or exit spell on with you're dealing with this kind of stuff. But my cousin will not do the Ouija board, so I don't push the buttons with her on that.
No, and that's okay. I'm not a fan of using that. I think you should be someone like yourself that knows what they're doing, because I believe, it's in my opinion, that people will use that as a joke, but there's a lot of negative repercussions that could come from that if you don't take that stuff seriously.
Man, I 100% agree with you. And we take this 100% serious. I actually bought a spell book and learned this spell. And I know that sounds so silly. And we bought sage, and, we do this. We started doing this recently over the past 2 or 3, where we just kind of get together in a circle. We hold hands. We do this type of spell saying we're just here in good spirits. We don't mean any harm. We sage ourselves down. We take it very serious, man. We're not there to gloat or make fun of any spirits or any historical location we're at. We're on burial grounds. People died and are buried there. And, we just want to make sure that we're cool with whoever might be lurking around there, and we're respectful with the questions we ask, and we do not jump out and scare each other, and we don't do pranks or any of that stuff. So it's very serious to us. Anything that we share on our social media page, we check over a bunch of times to see if it's real. And if we're unsure, we'll put on our social media page and we'll say, what do you think of this? What are you, can anybody give us insight on what this picture is, what we're looking at? We don't put a picture of God that we saw on a piece of toast and say, hey, look at this, look at God that we saw on toast. Like
No.
we're very serious with it. So we don't try to fake any audio or video that we have. And, we just have a good time doing that. So for me, the historical part is just the amazing part. I like the history part is just as much as the ghost investigation.
No, and it definitely shows. And I giggle a little bit with the toast and God, because I know there was reports back in the day, and I think we were about close to the same age, where people saw the image of the Pope on a potato chip or a piece of toast. So I kind of giggle at that because that's been going around for a while.
Yeah, we've had a couple pictures where there was some mist in a couple cemeteries. We actually were featured in the American Paranormal magazine, and we took a bunch of pictures in the cemetery, and there was some kind of spiritual mist or something that was in the pictures, and it wasn't there when we were in the cemetery. And we must have looked at these pictures 100 times over and over and over. And we were looking at them, we were like, oh my God, something is definitely there. That is crazy. And we submitted them to American Paranormal magazine, and they must have agreed with us because they put us in the magazine. So, but we weren't like, oh yeah, look, there's a skeleton there. Let's go post that. Let's go post that and circle it and put, oh, there's Jesus over there. It was like, we were, zooming in and making sure whatever we had was what we thought was, something legit. So
No, because there's a lot of that going on right now, where people are sending these ridiculous pictures, and obviously they're hoaxes. And it's not just limited to paranormal. We're talking about Bigfoot or UFO, anything related to that. Now, is your team only limited in investigating paranormal, or will you branch out to something else? Now, I don't recommend hunting Bigfoot in the wilderness. That would scare the hell out of me, but something to that effect.
Maybe we just do paranormal stuff for now, and I think we talked about this on the last one. Is the paranormal community is great. I've met people from all over the world, and I'll message somebody. I think I was talking last time. I have a friend in Australia. I have a guy in New Jersey, and if I'm unsure of something, I'll send them a picture, or they'll send me a picture, and they'll say, "What do you think about this?" Or they'll put a picture online. They'll tag, "Hey, More Paranormal, what do you think about this?" And it's such a great community to work with and to try to understand and learn about what you're looking at in pictures. And it's definitely not fun and games, at least for us.
That's good news to hear, because I know that with anything, there are always those outliers that kind of make the rest of us look pretty bad with what they're doing. I urge the folks to at least do their research before they say, "Oh, automatically, yeah, that's a ghost or that's a UFO." You got to have a very discriminating eye to make sure you got the right thing.
Yeah, and what's kind of funny is just kind of like circling back on that. So the first time we did the ghost hunt, the first time I did one was at Ohio State Reformatory, and one of the rules of this was a public hunt, and one of the rules was do not jump out and scare anybody. And to me, going into it was like, well, that's funny, thinking it's like a haunted house, like Halloween time. And when I went, I was like, yeah, you should 100% not do that. And that like just has stuck with us for so long, where we, it's very serious, and we try to, at least anything we put online is taken very seriously in what we're doing. So there's been times when I've had pictures with I'm just not sure about what it is, and I won't post it because I just don't know if there's enough evidence or enough of anything where it looks like it could be suspect, where we just won't post it.
Good rule to have. And while you were talking, this question popped in my mind. Everybody can have a different opinion, but I'll bring it out here. When these spirits start communicating with you or a team member, what is it that keeps these spirits hanging on, trying to contact people on this side of the fence? I ask that because it can mean a lot of things to different people. But why are they hanging on still to that location or that land or that home, the object? Why are they still communicating with the current living? Why haven't they passed on to their next level if there is one for them?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We've established questions that we ask, and we will get to a point if we get there, we'll get to the point where it's um, obvious is anybody here? Okay, yes, we've established somebody's here. We've established that we think we know who it is, but then we start getting into, do you need help? Is there and this might sound silly, it's like, do you need us to like go push a rock or something over to help you get to the other side, or do you need help with something to get to the other side? And we've never really got to that point, but we have that ready to go in our questions where, okay, do you need us here for something? Do you need us to tell somebody that you were wrongfully accused, or do you want to go to the other side? Like, we're prepared to get to that type of question, and to receive that answer if we ever get to it. But we've never gotten that far along with questions. It's and if you look at other people's investigations, I don't know if they've ever gotten that far either. But I think that's what we strive to do. What we want to get to is, does somebody need help from us, and what could we do and provide them, to be safe, or maybe they're enjoying what they're doing. We actually will ask that. Do you enjoy what you're doing? And see if we could help in any way.
With haunted locations, what seem to be the ones that have the most active as far as energy in there? Because I can understand a battlefield. I could definitely understand an asylum or an old hospital from the 1920s because we know conditions back then were abhorrent. What makes a location more active than others?
You know what? I think it's just what your intent is being there. I think spirits and ghosts they could sense who's there, and if you're being serious or not, and if you're a believer, and um if you're comfortable being there, and they can sense that you're comfortable with them and that you're a believer. We went to House of Wills in Cleveland. This is a historic, one of the most haunted locations in the United States. I think it's the most haunted funeral home in the United States. If you look up the most haunted locations in Ohio, it's always up there, top 5. And it has the unbelievable history tied to Cleveland. It was just like a ton of historical stuff. It turned into the NAACP had meetings there with the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King had meetings there. He was actually there. It turned into a funeral home for the Black community, and it was owned by a famous Mr. Wills that owned it for a while. A bunch of people died there as being a funeral home, right? And we went, and it was abandoned for a long time. The roof caved in. It's just in bad shape. A guy bought it. He's trying to rehab it. It's taken a long time to rehab it, but it's still there. It was built, I think most of it was built up by the Masons, so it has a lot of history tied to it. And we went on a private tour, and we had me and my cousins, and then we had this a black guy go with us, and we went. And when we were touring around, he just kept saying, "I want to go in the." He kept saying, "I want to go in the basement. I want to go in the basement. I want to go in the basement." We're like, "All right, well, we're just going to tour around. We'll get to the basement." But he was just drawn to the basement, and the House of Wolves had like a sub basement. You went into a basement, and then there was like another lower floor. And we eventually got down there, and this guy, he was a big guy. Okay, he had on like 2 winter coats. It was cold. He had some tattoos on his face, and he just was he was just like a cool dude. He just looked like he wouldn't take anything, right? And we get in the basement, and it was just, I think there's three of us, and we were just talking, and he broke down. He started crying, and he was mumbling under his breath, and it was intense, man. It was intense. He had to sit down, and he just broke down crying, and he was something was down there talking to him. And I think because he was a black guy in this black funeral home, and I didn't feel anything, and a couple white people that were with didn't feel anything, but something moved him and something touched him, and it was half scary as no other, because it was pitch black, dark, and cold, and he was freezing. And I was wearing a jacket, but I wasn't super cold, but he just kept telling me how cold he was. And we got out of the basement, and he was just drained of energy. Like, he had to sit down, and he had to eat a snack and drink. And that was one of the craziest moments for me doing investigation. And it was, again, it's that moment of, man, this is real. Somebody in that place needed to tell him something, or talk to him, or bond with him, and only him, not me or not any of the other white people that were there. It was just with him. And it was just like those are the kind of moments where, like, okay, this is real. Something is going on, and I want to be involved with more of this. So it was definitely a crazy experience. We posted some of the video with his approval on our Instagram page. It's kind of hard to hear, but that was the second part of the night where he wanted to go down by himself. After we left that basement, he, like, the next half hour, he's like, I need to go back down there by myself. And can I tell you a funny story about that? So
yeah, please.
we went to a paranormal convention, and we bought these little spells, these little vials that these two old ladies made, and they're made of like garlic and rice and spices, and they put little wax on top of them. They're these little vials, and I put them, we bought a couple of them because it was, it's kind of like a cool little thing. And you could probably make a pizza sauce out of the spell, right? So he was like, I want to go back down there. And I was like, all right, well, let's go. I'll go down there with you, and then I'll leave you alone, And he was like, we get down there, it's pitch black. And he was like, I put the REM pod up, and he goes, all right, I want to be down here by myself. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna leave this little spell bottle with you. It's a protection spell. And it was like the craziest thing. And he was like, yeah, leave that here with me. And then we left him down there, and he ended up freaking out. The REM pod turned green, and he jumped up the stairs to come out of there. So, it's like I don't know. It's just a crazy thing. It's good stories. And he was a believer. He left there being a believer.
Oh, with that being said, I'm starting to get chills from hearing about his experience. A very powerful event. Is he okay? Have you talked to him since then? Is everything good?
So he actually, after a while, he decided to move to Hawaii and take some time for himself. So he had some kind of experience, and I think it changed him for a little bit. So, it hit him hard. Whatever was going on down there, it hit him hard. And I hope for the best for him and in his life and what he's doing. And I think he's doing well, but it's like I said, like we said before, it's not to be messed with. It's none of this is to be messed with, and it's all to be taken very, very, very serious.
You're right. You and I know that, and you're absolutely right. So, what's coming up next for Moore Paranormal. What's the next location you're scouting, and where are we going?
So we do a sponsorship with Riders Inn. Riders Inn is a 200 old inn in Painesville, Ohio. It has a lot of historical ties with the Underground Railroad, War of 1812. Soldiers would come in there and hang out in the bar, and then eventually Civil War veterans would stay the night there after the Civil War was over, obviously. And one of the innkeeper's wives somehow died there, and we do a lot of work with them, sponsoring them. We're going to stay the night again there. We had some good experiences with them, and we're looking at just Waverly Hills and a couple other big places that we haven't been in Ohio. So the good thing with Riders Inn is we're always doing our own private stuff with just the three of us, but we're going to try to open it up to have it as a public hunt. So we're going to invite another 10, 12 people with us that are friends or family or people that want to get involved. You know, what's kind of cool about the paranormal stuff is, you know, nobody really talks about it on Facebook. And then when you post something, everyone's like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. Oh, let me know about the next time you're going to do it. So we decided, you know, well, let's do it. Let's see if we could rent the place out for a night and invite a bunch of other people and have a night out of it. So we have that. We're going to try to do that twice this year, and then try to hit a couple other. We're going to try to go back to House of Wills, and you know, just a couple other places that are close to Ohio. So Franklin Castle, which is one of the most famous castles in the United States, in Cleveland, Ohio, just opened up as like you could stay the night there. But I don't know if you can do ghost investigations, but we're going to be looking into that too.
No, and I hope you do. And I hope once you do that, you come back on the show and share the story with our listeners. And for the listeners of the show, where can they learn more about Moore Paranormal and, of course, learn more about Ohio urban legends?
Yeah, Moore Paranormal and Moore Paranormal. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Those are our main pages. Ohio Urban Legends, that's my side project. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok, and I have a YouTube channel showcasing all of Ohio's famous urban legends and haunted cemeteries and just cool stories about Ohio.
Yes, and we already talked. I talked ad nauseum about the story I love about the animated with the last video.
The Melonheads, yeah.
Melonheads. Also, you also have some pretty cool merchandise as well.
Yep, we have a lot of paranormal type stuff on. It's our More Paranormal Spreadshirt website. The link is in our bios of all of our pages. We just have like generic, just says paranormal, or you know, just stuff like that, or a cool ghost looking shirt. It's nothing really says More Paranormal glaring on it. It's all cool paranormal type stuff. So
excellent. You know, I really appreciate you taking the time to come back on with us and share your stories. Like I said earlier, please come back later this year and we'll talk some more, because some pretty exciting stories, and it seems like the team is taking off and doing some great things.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. This has been another excellent episode of Let's Find Out with me, co-host Diego. Please check us out on all our social media pages, as well as our new YouTube channel. My friend Wendy Stevens at the end of the show will let you know more about what's going on with us and our social media. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Until next time, my friends.
Thank you for listening to Let's Find Out with co-host Diego. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Pocket Casts, and on Anchor. For more information about Let's Find Out with co-host Diego, please visit us on Facebook.com/co-host Diego, on Twitter at co-host_Diego, and on Instagram as co-host Diego. Copyright co-host Diego. All content for Let's Find Out is the property of co-host Diego and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, co-host Diego, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out is provided on an as-is basis with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.